Welcome to Pinnacle's NFL Best Bets for Week 15. I'm Anthony Bruno, joined by Scott Cullen on behalf of Pinnacle, your trusted sportsbook for over 25 years, offering the best odds and best payouts, especially on the Week 15 NFL slate. Scott is coming off a fantastic Week 14, hitting the Seahawks on the money line, hitting Justin Jefferson anytime touchdown. The week wasn't as kind to me. I did have the Vikings minus 5.5 against the Falcons, but the Raiders decided to give all of their tight end targets to Michael Mayer out of nowhere. So yeah, it wasn't great for my Brock Bowers props, but I will try to bounce back here in Week 15. Scott, let's stay on fire, man. What is your first best bet on the Week 15 slate?
Well, Anthony, I'm going right back where you were last week with the Vikings. So I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings minus 7. Plus 103 at home against the Chicago Bears. And basically the teams are both heading in opposite directions here. Vikings have won 6 straight. Bears have lost 7 straight. And the Vikings just have stronger underlying numbers. They're 12th in EPA per play. Offensively, the Bears are 24th and having a hard time protecting Caleb Williams at quarterback. And Minnesota's defense ranks 3rd in EPA per play. Bears defense ranks 11th. And so I think by simple virtue of the Vikings being a better team, both by record and underlying numbers, and having home field advantage, I see there's an opportunity here that Minnesota could pull away from a Bears team that seems to be sinking fast.
I felt like such an idiot, honestly, putting my money on the Bears last week against the 49ers. That game was over before it even started. Yeah, this Bears team, especially on the road, they are just a disaster. And the Vikings... I like them to keep it rolling here as well. I still think that there's actually some value on Vikings minus 7 in this spot. So I'm right there with you, man. I think it's a strong play this week against the Bears team that is just not very good. All right, for my first best bet, I am going to the game between the Colts and Broncos in Denver. This line opened at Broncos minus 5. Money has been coming in on the Colts. It's now at Broncos minus 3.5, minus 120, and I think this is a good number to get back in on the Broncos. Both teams are coming off a bye, but to me, this is more about the Broncos' defense, and sure, you can say their strength of schedule hasn't been very good, but they're first in EPA per play, first in sacks. This is a defense that I think is going to cause some problems for Anthony Richardson. And Bo Nix, he is quietly putting together, I don't even want to say quietly, like he's putting together a really solid rookie season. Since starting the year 0-2 with 0 TDs and 2 interceptions through his first 2 games, over his last 11 games, he's 8-3, 17 touchdowns, 4 picks, 15th in EPA per play among quarterbacks during that span. So in this spot, we are getting the better quarterback, the better defense, the better head coach, the team with the significantly better point differential at home against an extremely volatile QB at Anthony Richardson who loves turning the ball over. Sign me up for the Broncos to cover in this spot.
Yeah, I think the change in Bo Nix from what we thought at the start of the season compared to, where he is now is massive. And it makes such a huge difference for the Broncos in terms of how you would evaluate them as a team. I think early in the year we would have said, okay, they've got a strong defense. As long as Nix doesn't cause them problems, then okay. They'll have a chance. But he's much more than that for them now. And he's an asset in the passing game. And you add that to this defense that has been strong all season. And yeah, I like them here against Richardson, who is, very high highs and very low lows. And I think this could be a very low low for him.
Let us know what else you have on your card, Scott. I know that you like a player prop with your next best bet.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Jaxon Smith-Njigba, who has basically become the number 1 receiver for the Seahawks. And, in the past 6 weeks, he's gone over 65 receiving yards. His prop this week is 65.5. It started at 64.5, but he's averaging 98.7 yards per game over that time. Now he's facing the Packers, who, when they're healthy, they have a strong secondary. Rank 11th in dropback EPA per play, first in defensive dropback success rate. But I also think the Packers have a decent chance to be in the lead in this game, which means more passing for Seattle. And since Smith-Njigba has become, such a reliable target, I can easily see him going over 65.5 yards against Green Bay.
Yeah, and he's had a really good stretch of games. Like these last 6 games, as you've talked about, like he is now up to over 900 yards on the season. Like he's putting together a really nice season, JSN.
Yes.
I am also going to be going to a wide receiver player prop. And this is going to be more of a play against this terrible Jacksonville secondary. So it's in the game between the Jets and the Jags. I'm looking at Garrett Wilson. Over 60.5 receiving yards at minus 118. Sure, you could also look at Devontae Adams in this spot. His line right now is at 64.5. I think both guys are set up to have good games in this spot. But like I said, this is a play against Jacksonville that has been horrible in the secondary. Their pass defense has been getting shredded all season. They have given up the most pass plays of 20-plus yards in the NFL. They've given up the most pass plays of 40-plus yards in the NFL. They've allowed the highest QB rating in the league. Their defense is dead last at EPA per play, dead last in dropback EPA. Teams have just been shredding them week after week, except, I guess, Will Levis in Tennessee.
Yeah.
That's the only team that hasn't shredded this secondary.
Yeah.
But since Devontae Adams joined the Jets in week 7, Garrett Wilson's target share has gone down a bit, but he still has a 26% target share. He's still averaging 8.7 targets a game during this stretch. I think this is set up perfectly. And listen, I know that Aaron Rodgers and the Jets passing attack had a good game last week against Miami, but they fall into a really nice spot here against this Jags team. So I like that to continue. I think both receivers are going to have good games. And I like Garrett Wilson to go over 60.5 receiving yards. Yeah,
and I mean, all the points you make about the Jaguars make me say, how are we not taking the Jets just to win this game and cover and blow them out of the water? Because the Jags defense is a mess, and if you're going to say they don't have Trevor Lawrence, well, now why are we hitching anything to Jacksonville? But I guess it's we've seen the Jets find ways to lose games in every fashion this year, so I understand not having faith in the team as a whole. But yeah, I like your play on Wilson too. I think he'll have a big game.
Yeah, I like the receivers in this spot. In terms of my confidence level in the Jets winning a game, that might be a different story.
Yeah.
All right, before we close out today's show, we have to talk about the game of the week. The Buffalo Bills are on the road in Detroit to take on the Lions. Right now at Pinnacle, the Lions are 2-point favorites. If you look at some other books across the industry, there's a lot of 2.5s out there. Pinnacle holding firm at -2 on the Lions. Scott, who do you like in this game?
Well, if I have to pick, I'm going to take the Detroit Lions because I think they're the better team and they have home field. So taking the Lions -2 makes the most sense to me. Having said that, Josh Allen also could have a Superman type game. I mean, he just had a game with 3 touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns. So he is capable of doing spectacular things, and maybe that's what the Bills will need to win this game. You can get Josh Allen to score an anytime touchdown at Pinnacle at +112. You can get him to pass for over 1.5 touchdowns at -145. Both of which are probably in play because this is a game that should see some points scored. And the Bills will need Josh Allen to be great. But if I have to take a team, I'm siding with the Lions in this one.
I thought we were going to disagree on this game, Scott, but I am also on the Lions -2 in this spot. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I mean, just look at the total. Right now, you can actually get the best price on the over 54 at Pinnacle. It's at -110. I just think the difference here is actually the Lions defense. I know they're banged up, but listen, last week they were decimated against the Packers, and they still found a way to win that game. They're getting a little bit healthier on the defensive line, whereas on the Bills side of things, their secondary's banged up now. Rasul Douglas, Taylor Rapp, their status is yet to be determined. So I like the Lions defense a little bit better. I think a lot of points are going to be scored. I am leaning towards Lions -2. I'm not going to call it a best bet, but I do like the Lions in this spot. I will throw a touchdown prop out there, though. And that's Tim Patrick at +338 to find the end zone. Now, listen, I know he scored a touchdown for the first time since 2001 last week. He had a couple scores against the Packers, but they have been targeting him in the red zone. And with all the points that are expected to be scored in this game, maybe we can get 1 or 2 red zone targets from Tim Patrick, and maybe he walks away with another touchdown. So I will be sprinkling on him at plus 338.
Well, plus 338 is serious value. And like I saw Patrick's touchdown, it almost looked too easy. Like it was like, wow, why don't they throw the ball to him more? And so maybe that is the play here for the Lions. And I think they've needed somebody else to be a red zone target for them. And Patrick, this is a real opportunity for him. So I think taking a shot at plus 338, totally worthwhile.
I want to see an explosive back and forth game, similar to what we saw last week with the Bills and the Rams. So hoping that this one really does live up to being the game of the week. But that's going to do it for our Week 15 NFL Best Bets. Like I say every single week, whether you're betting on main markets, player props, or futures, you will get the best odds and best payouts at Pinnacle. That's because of our low margins. We are going to have the best odds in the industry. So you are missing out big time if you are not betting on the NFL at Pinnacle. All right, so for Scott Cullen, I'm Anthony Bruno. Best of luck with your Week 15 bets in the National Football League. And remember to bet smart and bet Pinnacle.